What's going on, guys? It's Tyson the Trainer, back with another video, back with Sports Talk. Now today I want to talk to you guys about training high and training low. Okay, so basically this whole concept of I don't know if you've ever heard before, but basically what training high means is that you're going to have full muscle glycogen stores, full liver stores, and just blood sugar in general, like having sugar in your blood, right? Training low, on the other hand, means you've depleted your liver glycogen, you have low muscle glycogen, you haven't had carbohydrates the night before, and you're going to train on a lower carbohydrate state, okay? Now, this is actually a good technique for a lot of people because you're going to actually upregulate certain enzymes in your body to help with your training adaptation after you finish your training session with this training low state. Right? Now, I think I've covered this a little bit before, but there are times where you obviously want to train high and there are times where you want to be able to train low, okay? Because what's happening is when you do train low and you focus on using fat as a fuel source and, again, upregulating enzymes to adapt to your training, you are actually going to be able to carry over into your actual sporting event, when it comes to that point in time, to be able to perform better, because what's happening is basically when we are in a state of low carbohydrate availability and we're focusing more on fat metabolism as our energy source, our body is increasing its mitochondria, so they say miles are made of the mitochondria. The more long, slow distance stuff you do, the better your mitochondria is going to be, the more efficient you're going to be, the more cardiovascular fit you're going to be. You're going to be able to output more. So there's a lot of benefits here to actually doing long, slow, steady distances versus high intensity stuff. And with this slow intensity, it's actually better for you to use a lower carbohydrate strategy, right? So with saying this, ideally what you would want to do on these train low days, your lower intensity days, anything under 65% of your heart rate max is going to be this low day, okay? Which means you can put in the miles, you can go a longer period of time without having to stop. Your heart rate's a little bit lower. Again, 65% isn't going to be that much. Your heart rate's going to be lower, and it means you're going to be able to use fat as your fuel source, okay? Then, since you're doing this on the lower intensity side of things, and you're teaching your body to use fat as a fuel source and help with your mitochondria, then when it actually comes to fueling your event, being able to push the intensity higher, because the higher our intensity goes with our heart rate, the more we're going to be using carbohydrate as a fuel source, okay? So then when it comes to the race event, you're obviously going to be pushing those intensities higher, and that's when you're going to use your carbs as your main fuel source and help you improve your performance overall, okay? So within saying this, the training low days and the training high days, like I said, 60 to 65% is where you're going to be burning mostly fat metabolism. And the more trained you get and the better you practice this, you can actually start to slowly push that intensity higher to about 70 to 75%, okay? But you're going to be like top level athlete to be 75% using fat as a fuel source, okay? Once you reach past 65 or 75, if you're an athlete, it's just predominantly carbohydrates, okay? So then what we'd actually want to think about is what your training's like, the days that you're doing higher intensity stuff, you would want to be using carbs as your fuel source, because you're going to need that immediate energy. If you're doing sprints, or if you're doing intervals, or if you're doing stuff that's short, sharp, and repetitive, and getting that heart rate up above 75%, then carbohydrates are going to be the fuel for this session, okay? However, again, if it's below 75%, or if you're a little bit more untrained and it's below 65%, then fat as a fuel source is going to be the primary thing. So the best thing to do is to get up and go and do your fasted cardio. Okay. Now again, this is the train low state, and a lot of people say, "Oh, but training fasted cardio doesn't help with your, burning fat, or like it all comes down to energy balance," which is correct. Energy balance is still the first thing. However, energy balance isn't the only thing, okay? Because what you're doing in a fasted cardio state, again, we're teaching our body to use fat as a fuel source. We're also upregulating enzymes. We are also actually using fat as a direct fuel source. And regardless or not, whether you're fasted or fed and burning fat, you actually could be eking that 1% to 2% more using your fat as a fuel source and losing some body fat levels, okay? But again, this would obviously be if you're still in a deficit, right? So I think the thing here that I'm just trying to explain to you guys is like there's a time and a place for using both. But again, like this training low strategy is actually quite strategic and can help you with your overall performance, right? So again, fasted cardio would be ideal when you wake up in the morning, you haven't had anything, maybe you have some caffeine, but no calories at all, okay? Because if we've had ideally a lower carbohydrate dinner, I would probably recommend you also have a lower carbohydrate dinner. You're not going to be able to top up your liver glycogen. If you've had lower carbohydrates during the day, you're probably not going to be able to top up muscle glycogen as much. And because you now have a lower muscle glycogen, lower liver glycogen, and you're now on an empty stomach in the morning, your body is primed to use fat as its fuel source. So this is actually the perfect time for you to go and do fasted exercise, Go and do that 2-hour cycle, go and do that 90-minute run, go and do whatever you're gonna do, and start to build up that fat metabolism, start to really teach your body how to, use that as its fuel source and reap the training adaptations after, And then in regards to this training low, it's also recover low. So, you've not eaten carbohydrates for dinner, you've woken up in the morning, you've done your fasted exercise, the low intensity side of things. When it comes to after training, stick to a protein shake only. Avoid carbohydrates, you can have a little bit of fats, but ideally just a protein shake for your first meal. Then a few hours after, I would say 2 to 3 hours, then you can start to refuel yourself, because what's gonna be happening here is you have to make sure your, the adaptation is having enough time to be able to actually happen in the body. So we do need a few hours afterwards to not, feed ourselves straight away with carbohydrates to get those adaptations or to have them blunted. So make sure protein, small amount of fat after a meal after your run would be ideal. Then 3 to 4 hours after, then you can start to reintroduce your carbohydrates for the rest of the day and hit all the rest of your calories. So that's kind of one way you can actually start to change it up. And again, for me, I do my fasted cardio on a Wednesday and a Friday, which is my boxing, so I don't have anything beforehand. I have a lower carbohydrate dinner at nighttime, and then on Sunday, the same thing on the assault bike. I do have carbohydrates at the evening, so my muscle glycogen is topped up because my intensity on the assault bike is a little bit higher. So I kind of do a little bit of variation. Like I won't have anything for breakfast. I won't drink Powerade during my session, even though my heart rate's a lot higher as I'm trying to train my body to work in that 75% mark, But that actually starts with me keeping a little bit more muscle glycogen in the body at nighttime. So then I can go into that phase a little bit more carbohydrate full than you would want to be, just until I can increase that intensity a little bit more. Then I'll drop the carbohydrates out before my dinner time, okay? So again, there's a time and a place to do both of these. I think they're really important. I think they can help you greatly in regards to just your training adaptations and performance overall. Another thing I would probably say for you guys before I go in regards to this train high, train low, things like that. Again, just make sure you base it around your training, okay? So the higher intensity days, it's gonna be very hard to do fasted cardio or just any type of fasted exercise, and you're gonna want those carbohydrates for your fuel source, but on those lower intensity days is the best time to do it. Cool bananas, hope that made sense. If you guys have any questions, you know where to find me, at Tyson the Trainer with 2 R's on Instagram. And until next time, guys, I'll